Hey, it's Paula Hines Lonergan, and much is in the news about our man Michael Jackson. But recently I watched a video. I think it's called Man in the Mirror, and it was on YouTube, and it was about Michael Jackson. Very different from Leaving Neverland, but it basically took um, Michael Jackson, his family, his father, mother, their lives, progressing from, growing up in Gary, Indiana, to the stardom that they had. And what they did is they actually had acted out portrayals of different parts of, the family's life. Now, I'm going to fast forward a little bit because one part that I found very interesting about the documentary, and by the way, I'm going to put the link in the notes section so you can check it out yourself. But apparently, as the Jackson 5 got more popular, of course, they were doing more touring, across the country, and, they'd need places to stay, so they'd stay in hotels. And there was a very interesting statement that Michael apparently himself said. Now, I'm not sure if this was a quote direct or if it was something Michael said or that was in the paper or whatever, but it was basically said in that, a lot of times, the boys would share rooms, when they would stay in hotels. Okay, that being the case, not all the time would everybody have their own room, so they'd have to share. And there was a brief instance or story talked about how sometimes Michael would share his room with his older brothers. Now, some of his brothers are 4, 5, 6, 7 years older than him, so he was a young person, 9, 10, 11, 12, however young he was. And his older brothers, of course, kind of being teenagers or almost adults, kind of they were not on the same par, as far as maturity. But apparently, in sharing room with his older brothers would bring women into the rooms and have relations with them. And I guess apparently Michael, said he, would pretend to stay asleep, when this was going on, because his brothers would say, "Don't wake up, stay there." Um, Now, that as innocent as that may seem, in the book The Courage to Heal, in the beginning part, it asks the question, was I a victim of child sexual abuse? Now, for as innocent as that early experience Michael Jackson had, in the book The Courage to Heal by Ellen Bass and Laura Davis, one of the things that is considered and is childhood sexual abuse is made to watch sexual acts. Get the book, look at it yourself. Okay. So, in reality, and we know Michael suffered physical abuse and mental and emotional abuse, from, his dad. But, in being forced to watch sexual acts by his older brother. Now, I wasn't there, so this is all alleged. So, but based on the documentary, that's what, Michael said he experienced. So that being the case, that is a form of sexual abuse because children should not be um, exposed to that kind of thing. One, mentally they can't handle it, and emotionally it throws things off. And even though maybe nobody ever touched, none of the ladies ever touched Michael per se, it's still abuse, sexual abuse of a child. To make a child be in a room where sex acts are taking place. Does not say he has to be touched at all. Okay, so now that being the case, of course, my mind keyed in on that part there. I mean, we look at the life that Michael Jackson led, and of course, there's a lot of factors that are involved. The fame and his, abuse and the travel, and then of course his conflicting religious, upbringing and things. All of that factored into the person that he became. But when you think about his choices alleged choices when it came to relationships. One of the things that the Courage to Heal book says in regards to relationships and getting in touch with your feelings in connection to yourself, it makes a statement on page 223. It says, basically, when a child has been sexually abused, the person may feel that their whole life is seeped in sadness, rage, or loneliness, or that there's a struggling with constant anxiety, fear, or depression. Or a person may have extremes, feeling flooded by overwhelming emotions and then shut down and numb inside. These are the effects that sexual abuse can have on a child into adulthood. Now, in what you know about Michael Jackson, I never met him, but in what you know about Michael Jackson, do you see any of these qualities? Do you yourself as a victim see these qualities, how you have been affected because of what you experienced? So now, this being the case, it's like putting the pieces of a puzzle together. We can see how, in regards to Michael, in regards to myself, in regards to anybody, it's understanding what makes up the person. And unfortunately, mental abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse is bad. Sexual abuse has the greatest and most egregious effect. I learned that in the seminar. Okay, so being the case, we kind of get a picture painted maybe on the conflictions that Michael was faced with, even in connection to sex. Now, in the book, The Courage to Heal, under the chapter that talks about reclaiming your sexuality, it says here how many survivors of childhood sexual abuse feel particularly vulnerable, damaged, confused, or stuck when it comes to sex. Now, did Michael's early experience, affect his confusion, his damage? Of course, everything that's been said in connection to, Michael, with like boys is all alleged. I won't there, but if that is the case, and there's no excuse if he did any of those things to a child. Okay, no excuse, and I'm not excusing it at all, but I'm just giving the picture of how damaging childhood sexual abuse can be, to a person, and the effects that it can have, so that we can kind of maybe all understand, when we're overcome with the fear or anxiety or confusion and things like that. Where was the source, of it? Now, one of the things the Courage to Heal book encourages is, getting in touch with feelings. I mean, being realistic. It's easy to kind of wall off and not, want to feel anything. And I know I'm the first person to say that. But the Courage to Heal encourages getting in touch with feelings. And on page 223, it continues. It says, you may feel overwhelmed by your emotions, and it can be frightening. But experiencing our full range of emotions is important. Emotions are the useful messengers that give us insight and the ability to make wise choices. Feelings, even painful ones, are allies. They tell us what's going on inside and often guide us in responding to the situations in our lives. Now, I thought that was interesting how it says making wise choices. If we're not real with ourselves, if we're not being honest with ourselves, if we're not being in touch with our feelings or even our past, it affects the choices that we make. And choices that we make later in life into adulthood may not always be wise because of the stuffing of feelings and not recognizing really where you're at. And that's something that I've kind of learned over time and am continuing to learn. But I just wanted to throw that out there, in case anyone ever questions, well, I mean, that child, yeah, sure, he was in the room, no big deal. No, it is a big deal. Oh, yeah, I was watching porno and the child was there. No, it is a big deal. And for anybody, adults who think it's okay, it's sexual child abuse, childhood sexual abuse that you are committing, and you don't know the effects that it can have on a person. So anyways, those are my words. Michael Jackson, what I kind of learned in that documentary. Like I said, I'm going to put the link at the bottom, and let me know what your thoughts. Did you see this documentary? And do you know children that are being exposed to things that they shouldn't? It's something that as adults we need to take responsibility for and halt, if it's something that's taking place that we're aware of. All right, anyways, my name's Paula Hines Lonergan. Time's up for me to be silent. My email address is timesupforsilence@gmail.com. And you can send me an email. I'm happy to, receive emails. The feedback is very important. And you can always put a note in the notes section as well. All right, thanks a lot.